welcome and welcome back. So I have a few new subscribers. So hey, welcome. I appreciate you. And to my old returning subscribers, appreciate you all so much. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why. I don't know why. Why am I nervous talking to you? I shouldn't be nervous talking to you. You're my followers, right? You like my channel. Something you find is interesting. So today we're going to talk about anger. And we're going to talk about anger because I have the type of anger that I black out when I'm super mad. So I have learned over time how to manage my anger. And I'm working on what's a little problem. Not a big problem. It used to be a big problem. I mean, listen, I was in education for 16 years and I went to the principal's office more time as a teacher than I did as a student. I'm just being real with you. But all that to say, that's what we're talking about today, because I led a school in those 16 years of education. I led a school for 5, almost 6 years, right? And on the very first day of school, day one, my year one. So I'm all wet behind the ears. I just came out of the classroom. I'm like super geeked about being a teacher. Oh, I mean, an administrator. I was a coordinator at the time. It was a assistant principal like position. Now, I do want to clarify a couple of things because I haven't been 100% honest with you about who I am. I've shown you my professional face. I've shown you my I ride on the bus face, but I haven't shown you my just Terri. And that's where the name of the channel came from, because I'm not this or that, I'm this and that. And I just so happen to be a cousin Christian. I love God with my everything, and He is first in my life. And for all the things I don't have, I know that it's not my season, it's not my time, and there's a reason, and God knows, and I'm okay with that. When it comes to how I speak to you, I never am going to try to come at you in a way that you'll feel disrespected, but I may use language that might offend some. But I do want to clarify a couple of things, because as an administrator, and I was an administrator of an alternative education program. In that program, what that means is it wasn't really a school, but it was a school. So we housed 4 types of programs, 5 at the time when I started, but 2 of them were alternative schools where the students did not get to choose to go. They had violated the student code of conduct in some way, and so they were forced to be there for X number of semesters, whatever they were assigned. Then there was a school where it was an open campus, so it had a light application process. But a lot of these students, and then there was at the time, there was a daycare in the building. There was an adult education program, but I was not the administrator over that program. And then there was also a program for those students who were in the special education program from 21 to 22, because we had a graduation test at that time. All that to say, day one. Now, I'm not endorsing. This is water inside this bottle. I actually had to wash it because I found it on the street. So day one, this is not funny. Not funny. I'm sorry. I laughed. So day one of school, in my first year of administration, a young lady takes the bottle. Now, if you have gotten a Sprite anytime recently, this is a little bit, like, this plastic is a little bit lighter than, these are more eco-friendly. They're made with less plastic than they used to be made with. So at the time, it was the heavier bottle, and it wasn't empty. Okay, so that makes sense in a second. So what happened was, we had a girl fight. So one girl looks at the other girl wrong, and because the girl looked at her wrong, she takes her Sprite bottle and she chunks it across the room and she hits the girl in the head, and a fight ensues. So I have to deal with said discipline for both young ladies. Of course, at the time of which everything was playing out, we had to separate them, one in the SRO's office, the resource officer, one in my office. I believe that's how we did it that time. And we took the statements of each lady young lady, because we want to make sure that you have your opportunity to tell your side of the story. And there was clearly an aggressor, there was clearly not. And I had to express to the one who threw the Sprite bottle that she was wrong, and she really didn't understand. She was like, but she can't be looking at me like that. And I was like, well, I understand that, dear, but legally, there is nothing that supports you being able to throw a Sprite bottle at someone else's head. Like, they can't look at you wrong. And while we're speaking of that, freedom of speech is also a thing. So when you say, well, they talked to me wrong, baby, that doesn't give you an excuse to physically harm someone. So at that time, it was just discipline. And in that particular situation, I just gave the max consequence. I was mad. It was my first day. You starting a fight on my first day, so I gave her 10 days. Boom. That was the max consequence for violating the code of conduct for fighting at that time. But I was in an alternative education program, and we had 90-minute blocks. So missing 5 days is like missing 10. So I had to decrease that. And I did try to make sure that moving forward, I never had to go back and call back my consequences unless it was really necessary. And there was one case when I did, and I wanted to, and that will not be told in this story. But anyway, so as it pertained to that particular Sprite story, and why we're talking about this, because there is a be angry. Like, anger is a natural emotion, so it should be felt. To not try to feel it is not natural, and that is going to hurt you in some way, form, or fashion. To stop the feelings process is unnatural, and that's going to hurt you in some way, form, or process. To stuff your feelings, and so you're not acknowledging the anger that's on the inside, that can hurt as well. So what I know is happening, and I'm explaining a lot and going a lot, and I haven't actually started. I know I told you I was a cussing Christian, and I hadn't said a cuss word, but anyway, that's just right now. Just again, but the why. The why is because as I ran a school, I had students who cursed, and I had students whose parents cursed at them. So they'd be like, get your ass out the car. So if this is how me and my mother talk, then when I come to school, me and the administrator, I'm not necessarily being disrespectful because this is how me and my mother talk. So there were times where I had to learn that I'm not cursing at you. I'm cursing because this is my language. So I would have to have a conversation about, well, there's a difference between the language that you have with when you're not at school and the language that you have when you are at school. And because I can't just, again, missing a day is like missing 2 in the school at the time. So if I didn't have to cause a child to lose instructional time, I didn't want to. So what did he say? What did she say? So I would have to get down to okay, was he cursing in your presence? Because if you slam your finger in the door, you might say shit. But if he said, fuck you, then those are 2 different situations. You understand what I'm saying? So as an administrator, because I have kids that cuss all the time, I have kids that are raising themselves, I have young adults who are the adults of the house. There was a young lady I had one time who it was her responsibility to check out of school every day at 2:00, go get her brother from school, take her brother to whatever practice he needs. She was responsible for paying the bills. She was 18. Again, I have stories for days. But when it comes to the anger, the parent of the young lady who threw the bottle tried to get me fired. And she tried to get me fired because I would not tell her what the consequences of the other young lady was. And it's like, ma'am, there are laws that protect this young lady right now. I can't tell you that. And so when I told her that I could not disclose the information to her, she reported me to my supervisor and tried to get me fired. And it's like, when will we be honest about what's happening? But another conversation, another day. I don't know what the urgency of now with this story is, but I know there is an urgency of now. I know there's an urgency before I write my next book. And as I'm writing my next book, I am going to start giving you the videos associated with the chapters because I know my generation and I know who I'm talking to. So I want you to be able to have videos to listen to this when you want to, and a book to reference when it's time. But I don't know how long it's going to take me to write that book, so I don't want to hold that process up. If I do get followers who do need to have these conversations, or at least hear these conversations of how do I deal with that? Because yeah, you're going to be mad. And sometimes you might want to fight. But is that in your best interest? Like, play the tape through is what someone used to tell me. Like, think about what's going to happen if I do that. If I punch you, then what? If I show out at work, then what? If I cuss this person out, then what? How does that impact you? So I feel better. Maybe. Um, maybe. But how does that impact your life because you chose that action? And then what other repercussions does that cause? Because again, like I said, I was in the principal's office more times as a teacher than I was as a student. And I got kids. You know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking right. I don't have time to be in the principal's office over things that could cause me to lose my job. I have children to feed, or a child to feed at the time. I had 2 children when I was leading the building. So I have a lot of stories. But when it comes to anger became, when I realized that that was the biggest thing that my campus was dealing with, it became easier to work with my student body, because I had to first address what was the struggle. And then we could talk about what their plan was, because I don't care what your plan is. I just cared you had a plan. Because if I haven't posted that story, I will, about the young man who, he passed 6 months after his graduation because it wasn't my fault. I'm not taking blame, but I didn't make sure he had a plan. I didn't know who he was before he came to me, and he went out of high school without a plan and without any direction. And 6 months later. And so it was stories like that that helped me change how I worked with my young adults, because it's like, okay, I need to know what brought you to me, especially when in this environment I was in, alternative school. So again, you got kicked out, or you don't want to be in the traditional setting. Why are we here? And then the ones that were loud and angry, because the loud and angry usually actually are a little easier to deal with, because you can kind of figure out sometimes. It depends on how close they are, because close. But the quiet angry are the worst ones. And I'm a quiet angry right now. And that's why I have to put boundaries in place for my life. Because the quiet anger that I'm working on, and I am working through it. So let me not say this, because this is a video that I intend to post online. And so these things will be there for a long time. And I know what I intend to do as far as what my assignment is. So I know that these things will be held forever. And some people will try to make me out to be not who I am because I choose to curse, or I choose to tell you the truth about my past and choose to still be in the light. Because I want you to take what I've lived at best you can and not live it, the bad stuff. I want you to take the lessons, and prayerfully you'll learn from what I learned, so you don't have to live some of what I lived. So this one is about anger, and it's definitely about that quiet anger, because my quiet anger people were the ones that really had the worst capacity in the school, because you didn't see it coming. And that was the problem. They would go from 0 to 100, and it would be like a totally different person. And it happened twice. And I'll tell you their stories separately, but they were just always brooding like the Hulk. Seriously, always brooding. So when someone had the nerve to jump bad, they got a completely different person. And they didn't expect that, because that person was quiet. So it is to say to you, for you, when you know you're on edge, like you ready to pop off, you know what I'm saying? Stay home. Don't answer the phone. Don't send no texts. You may not even respond to texts. And this is a suggestion, not a commandment. Be careful to look for distractions, because when you're in that space where you know that you, like, look, hey, say the wrong thing. Then things, text messages, sometimes people, things will happen to try to poke you in that area just to get you to respond, because in your negative response, that can change everything. You can't control others. You can control you. So you want to make sure that you can control yourself in a way that makes sure to protect yourself. especially when there's no one to protect you other than God. And he's protecting you, but he does have expectations for your behavior as well, because we should be representatives. And so I know you're saying that like, what? But you curse. I do. And I represent him well. I carry him with me everywhere I go. And I promise almost every time I leave the house, I have a conversation about God. And he's on my shoulder with me every single day. And I love him with my whole life. And that is all I have for you today for this one. I don't have the verse, be angry, sin not. It's just one of those things that I know that's in the Bible, and it's definitely one of those things that I repeat when I feel like being angry and sinning not. I need a punching bag. I know you're like, for real? Oh, I'm so serious. I got gloves. And I need a bag because I punched a wall and I got what's called a, well, I thought I had a boxer's fractures, but I only sprained my wrist. So since I sprained my wrist from punching walls, there's no more punching walls for me. So at some point I'm gonna get me a punching bag, so that's how I can, let my anger go. And I can't run right now because of arthritis. We've talked about that, boo. But I am walking, and so I am working on it. Please like, please subscribe. So sorry for the long, matter of fact, no, I'm not. I told you the truth. I gave you my heart, and I love you. Have a wonderful remainder of your day. Like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you, and more to come. Have a great day.